Miami's real estate market looks like it's booming, but for most people, it's actually getting worse. And the data that just came out really shows you why. New article, Realtor.com, and it's titled "The Squeezed Middle in the Magic City, Miami's Vanishing Entry-Level Luxury." It's written by Julie Taylor. She's terrific, and it really highlights something we're starting to see more clearly in this market. Look, it looks good on the surface, and everything looks strong, but underneath, I'm seeing a totally different deal. The median home price in Miami, according to the article, is now around $630,000. And according to that data, the typical home is simply not affordable to the median income household. Makes a lot of sense. $630,000. That's really the key right there. It's not just that prices are high, it's that they're disconnected from what people here actually earn. And that's your biggest problem. There's just a huge disparity from the income that folks get versus what they can actually afford. And that's what's going on in a city like Miami and many other places throughout the country. From the article, listen to this. This just is incredible. Back in 2020, all right, so you got to go back 6 years ago. Back in 2020, about 24% of single-family homes in Miami were priced under $350,000. Today, 6 years later, that number is just 3.5%. So we dropped from 24% to 3.5% as far as homes that are available under $350,000. That is an absolutely stunning statistic. And it's not a gradual shift. It's actually a huge drop in just entry-level inventory. There's just nothing out there. You try to find a starter home in a place like Miami, and you're not going to find it. So for a lot of buyers, there's just no starting point. It's just not there anymore. There isn't one, right? Now look, at the same time, more and more of the market is concentrated in higher price points. Okay, so I want to go back because what you're really seeing is a market shifting. That's what you're really seeing. You're just seeing an upward shift in a market. 11 episodes ago, it was a show I did on March 11th. And so easy to remember, 11 episodes, March 11th, roughly 11 episodes. And I asked, is the Miami market really booming? That was the title. Is the Miami market actually, or, really booming, right? Because there was an article that came out then that said, it's booming and talked about it. And I took issue with that article because I didn't quite see it the way it was shown and it was explained. And in that episode, I talked about that, what we're really seeing, right? We're seeing this top part of the market, billionaires moving in, record-breaking luxury sales. And what I said was there's the ultra luxury market in Miami is doing fantastic. I mean, it's breaking records. And I mentioned, and I'll say it again, folks like Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon, Mark Zuckerberg, founder of Facebook, Meta, now called Meta, they're buying properties in the Indian Creek area there in Miami Beach, and they're creating even what's being coined as a billionaire's island. It's not just Miami Beach. I mean, the same thing's going on in Palm Beach County too, Palm Beach Island as well. But here's the thing. It's like you've got two different markets, okay? Because when you look at that, you're like, well, Miami's not one housing market. It's two different markets. You got, on the one side, you got this luxury market, cash buyers, billionaires, out-of-state wealth, international money, and that's doing terrific. And on the other side, you got the middle income buyer. And that's what I want to talk about more. And that's what the article discusses too. And they're just getting squeezed out. And they're moving, it's like two markets moving in totally different directions. Now, there's a mention in there too, and a lot of folks, I've heard this from other folks too, well, condos are the more affordable option. The condominium market is more affordable. That is true. But I have my own opinion on this, and I just feel like, yes, you could do a starter home as a condo, but the reality is when a lot of the condos were built in South Florida, in general, Miami, they were built not really just, they weren't really designed for families in the sense that, square footage and bedrooms, a lot of it was built as studios, 1 bedrooms, maybe 2 bedrooms. In general, it's kind of rare to find a 3-bedroom in Miami. So I mean, you're not really going to design this for folks who have families, who have children, who have pets. You know, a lot of the buildings, they've got HOA rules, and they've got restrictions on pets, weight limits on dogs. It's just not that practical for, you know, folks that need the single family home, that need the space, that need the yard, that need you know, a certain amount of living space that's comfortable for families, just even a typical family with a couple of children and all that space and household needs, right? So I don't consider that a very viable option. I still think it's squeezing folks out, and just doesn't work. Just doesn't work for a lot of people. All right, let's talk about this now. So what do we got? The two markets I talked about. Remember, a lot of median income buyers do rely on interest rates because they are relying on a 30-year fixed mortgage, right? So when you got rates higher, you got insurance, you got taxes are higher. A lot of the billionaires are buying in cash, okay? So they don't care necessarily as much about interest rates. So you have sort of that, you know, issue as well. That does not help affordability, just rates being where they are. But I'm going to tell you, it's a supply issue as well. And what I mean by that is there's just not, just go back to the data that I said earlier, there's just not enough homes at the price points that the average buyer can get in that market. So what happens? Well, a lot of folks move out. That's exactly what happens. You know, when I read this, I thought to myself, well, you know, and it mentions it too in the article. I think it had a few folks mention it, and I agree 100% with this. What ends up happening is people just stop buying. They don't stop buying. They just stop buying in Miami, right? So that middle class, that middle sort of median income folks, they're going somewhere else. They're going further out. They're leaving the city. They're going to find more affordable places where they can buy. They're not leaving the market. They're just leaving the location. All right. So, but I say this to say what happens, because at the same time, you still got strong demand coming into the city. You still got people relocating from high tax states like New York, and of course New York City and California. They're getting away from state income taxes. They're getting away from potential taxes even on their assets. I think California is discussing a tax on assets. And they wouldn't face that in Florida. And that's a big driver. And high net worth folks, those tax differences are huge. Okay. Add to that the lifestyle you have here in Miami, the weather, the waterfront, and all that. Now, there's a business angle to this too that doesn't get enough play. Miami is becoming a hub for startups and business, and hedge funds are relocating to Miami. Apple's building offices in Coral Gables and so forth. So people, you know, it's not just about lifestyle and living here. They're working here. They're building businesses here. And look, you want to talk about lifestyle for the ultra luxury businesses, Wall Street types, having meetings directly from their mansions, from offices inside their mansions, overlooking Biscayne Bay. I mean, what a place to hold a business meeting, right? And that's what they're doing. They're spending 6 months out of the year, you know, in Miami versus say in New York, and they're holding meetings here and they're conducting business. And I think that changes a lot of the perspective of what Miami has become, right, versus what it used to be. And then there's that global angle. You know, Miami has always been a destination for international wealth, especially Latin America. You know, you've seen waves of folks come in from Cuba and Brazil and Colombia, Argentina, Venezuela, and so forth. And when you have that kind of situation globally, right, economic instability, political issues, currency problems, whatever it is, people looking for a safe place to park their money, well, Miami is going to continue to be that place for Latin America. I don't see that changing. So this poses the big question. It becomes, what wins in the end? Do you have more middle-income buyers leaving, or do you continue to have more wealthy buyers moving in? And what does that do to the market dynamic? Because you got two forces now kind of pulling the market in two different directions. And as I see it, the trend is the trend until it ends. Miami is likely to just keep attracting this wealth. I don't see it ending because it hasn't, right? So I don't see that demand going away. It's coming from other places, and it's coming for very valid reasons. So that pressure, unfortunately, on the middle of the market, that median income household, probably doesn't ease anytime soon. I think it just continues to shift outward. And all those folks may move out, find other locations. But I think that ultimately that tug of war between those two markets, I think for now, because the trend shows that the median house is going up in value and that the market still continues to go up, that the ultra luxury market and the wealth will keep coming in and continue to drive that market up until the trend ends. And for now, the trend hasn't ended and doesn't look like it's going to end, at least anytime soon. So the market's still booming, but it really depends on who you are, right? Keep that in mind. Booming market, but is it booming for you or not? That's the question. That is it for me today. Thank you so much for listening to today's show. And as always, if you have questions or need specific advice, ideas, or just some help regarding your particular real estate needs or situation, or if you're just looking to buy or sell real estate in Florida, well then DM me on Instagram at The Salib Group, or just send me an email to mark@thesalibgroup.com. Don't forget to leave a rating for the show, follow, subscribe, help others find the show, and be informed and educated about the real estate market just like you. Until next time.